Matthew Vaughn, one of my favorite filmmakers with his great visuals shown in film, and undoubtedly one of the best in the business when it comes to transitions between scenes. And he's also really good in showing the impact and weight in scenes, but he's just the king of transition for me. A filmmaker that started his journey in the 90s with his friend Guy Ritchie and went on to produce a movie directed by that said friend, and let's just say that they got it absolutely right that first time. And after producing 2 more films with Guy Ritchie, he went on to make 7 films over the last 20 years. And with the release of Argylle in a few days, what better time to dive in his filmography when possibly his next film could be in another 4 years. But not to bore you with his personal life, let me just get to ranking every single Matthew Vaughn film. And by the way, this is all just my opinion. So yeah, starting off with the worst, it's easily got to be The Golden Circle for me. It's a film I found not great when I was younger, and that usually speaks enough as to how not good something was. Although the film isn't the best, but for this to be your worst film as a director, I will have to say you've done your job right. Because I can't lie, upon a rewatch, this film actually isn't all that bad. I will say my main annoyance stands why they killed everybody in the film, but honestly don't really care too much about it now. Definitely Roxy dying was a miss. Oh, by the way, spoiler for a film that came out 7 years ago, I'm sorry. But Roxy dying definitely wasn't it. And this is somewhat of an occurrence with the Kingsman film in general. Someone must always die in the start and towards the end of the film. Like, man, can we have happiness with all our characters just making it through? But Matthew Vaughn really knows how to drive the pace and adrenaline in this film. Although the film feels very special effects driven, not really a bad thing in my opinion, but I like a bit of realism with its goofiness and everything. But for example, the taxi chase in the start, it was cool for the most part, but there were some times I'm like, come on, you know. And also the quirky CGI and special effects just didn't help it in that aspect, you know. And also regarding the start, it's pretty mad how like in the first film, they couldn't get into Colin Firth's glasses because they were encrypted, but they could hack their entire database for this film. And this film also introduced a couple characters like Pedro Pascal, completely forgot he was in this. Hailey Berry, cool as ever, just really wish we got more to see from her, as well as Jeff Bridges. So basically just the Americans got introduced. But I did think Channing Tatum was cool, but I'm pretty sure he can dance better than that. Come on, bro, we've seen Magic Mike. Also, Julianne Moore, part of this film, I did not really like her. I think it's a huge drop-off from what we got in the first film, and I think the villains in this franchise progressively just got worse. But Julianne Moore just wasn't a great villain. I think she was written greatly, like you can completely see like her plot and everything, you can understand what her plan is, obviously. I just felt like her execution of her character wasn't great, and it was also accompanied by the lack of screen on time she got, especially compared to Valentine. Also something that I didn't really like was Eggsy's relationship with the princess. Like even Mac Miller saw that Roxy was a better match.
Why didn't Eggsy marry Roxy or something? I'm going, well...
But yeah, I was talking about the CGI earlier, and I did like the visuals. Although not as good as the first, but I think Matthew Vaughn is just a victim of his own success, with this film just always going to be compared with that first film, and he doesn't even come anywhere close to touching it. So next up is The Kingsman, the 3rd film in the franchise. I don't know why they called it this, just a stupid name, but I feel like Matthew Vaughn is just not great at sequels with this. I have to admit, I don't know which one is worse between this and the other one I just mentioned, because like I was just thinking, I feel like this was also more biased towards the last film because I watched that when I was younger and I hated it, but I watched one more recently and I just sympathized for it a bit more. I don't know. They're both not the best, but I think I slightly prefer this more. And I'll start with stuff I like I think Rasputin carried this film, and in Kingsman fashion, especially after the first film, they just removed the best part of that film so quickly. But I will say the film balanced itself better than the previous after losing a good character, but that Rasputin scene with Ralph Fiennes, bro, please be calming down. Conrad, played by Harry Dickinson, I just hated him. Like, oh, your father is doing so much for you, and you just spit on his face like that. He even does this whole black ops thing to help the country in his own way, but you just have to fight in the front line. Like, what are you doing? To be fair though, he did stop the war technically, but come on, regardless, the dad still would have gotten like the president's OnlyFans tape, because he didn't even make any difference, to be fair, because he still needed to get that tape of the president doing his kinky business. But The Kingsman is just such a weird film in the sense that why would you make it? Because what made the first one great, obviously the tech and cool fight sequences with the cool spy stuff, that obviously made the first film like fun and everything. But I also think what made the first film good was the fact that you see someone like Eggsy growing up in the streets with bare experience become this spy. And this film especially is just like the complete polar opposite, because it's just royalty at this point. Like, whose bright idea was to make this film? And the film's tactic to combat this dull premise with no cool spy tech and everything were scenes of them deciphering a code with birds. Like, what? You expect me to be cheering for this? I just feel like I just ranked this film a bit better because of my younger self bias that puts this film above Golden Circle. But then I remember stuff that this film actually had that I like. It had better fight sequences in my opinion. Like the trench scene was just fantastic. If you haven't seen that scene, just go on YouTube and watch it. It's really, really cool. And what came after that, my mouth just gasped on first viewing. I would say like out of all the shock killings that all the Kingsman film have done, this is such a cheap one, but I don't know, it just works. Compared to even the Golden Circle that you have like Mark Strong singing. Another spoiler. But anyhow, also points alone for Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Jimon Honshu's appearance in this film alone. And back to another shot on this film, I would admit, like, unlike the other two Kingsman films, they have always had this cool, really nice final fight sequence. But this film was just so underwhelming in that regard. Like, I don't know, maybe because we're seeing a 60-year-old Ralph Fiennes fight, might not just be the most exciting thing ever. And also hinting a sequel with Hitler, come on, we don't want this. We want to see Eggsy again. Finally, I'm just going to end with this. I think it's just incredibly funny when the credits play for this film. A film that is based on Old English and honor and all of this crap, UK drill starts the credits off. It's just ridiculous and so out of place, and I just love it. It's the manners that make a man, but the hammers that break. Now on to the next film on the list, and this is Matthew Vaughn's first, Layer Cake. And this is just a super really weird film for me. Because on one hand, this film is really, really good and I really enjoyed it. And on the other hand, it tackles itself so much, so it just prevents itself from being amazing. So it's in this weird limbo state for me of being a really good film and being amazing. So it's just in between both of that. And I feel what also brings this film down from greatness is because it's such a come on, man film. And I'll compare it with Matthew Vaughn's very own Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels film directed by Guy Ritchie, and maybe he saw like The Game during filming that, so he just like, maybe I'll infuse those two films but add a bit more of like top tier crime elements to the film. And then we got Layer Cake. It's like a film that could have been really amazing but just overcomplicated itself. By the way, out of all the films on here, this is the only film I watched twice this month because I did not get it on first viewing, but I did like it. The intro was really cool with the whole Daniel Craig monologue, and the editing of this film, may I say, was just excellent. Also some camera work or visuals for, I don't even know, that just transcended on the future of Matthew Vaughn films, like the zoom out shot thing that this guy just does in like, I noticed it in a bunch of Kingsman films. Like, this guy is just simply the king of transitions. Once more, incredible. And as I mentioned, Daniel Craig is also in this. He is incredible. Also dope considering the fact that this was pre-Bond. Funny how Q is also in this, as well as Tom Hardy. He just really looks like Keanu Reeves in that one scene there. But yeah, this film as a whole, the twistings just felt too much. And I compared it to Lock, Stock because I feel like he also wanted to do his whole intermingled story. But I just feel like he was trying to do too much in that sense. And unlike Lock, Stock, that just had like, let's say 8 characters. This had like a bunch of guys. And I just feel like a lot of them were underused and the story points weren't engaging, and you're just trying to remember like 20 guys' names in this film, and when their names are like Jamie, Mickey and Sydney, it just gets so confusing. But it does very well to mask the fact you didn't know Daniel Craig's character's name, didn't realize it till the end, and credit to Matthew Vaughn there. Then Kick-Ass for that 4th spot. I was so happy to find out that the second film was not directed by Matthew Vaughn, so I could save myself from the torture of watching that. But I really thought I'd love this film way more than I did, with this and Kingsman filling up that top spot, but it just didn't hit the same compared to when I was younger. I have to start by saying the soundtrack and score for this film is simply amazing. That's simply iconic, for me at least. And I guess we're doing this now, Matthew, with the whole narration at the start, but now this time with Aaron Taylor-Johnson, and he was great in this. And on Aaron, mad how we have Evan Peters and him in this before they both took the mantle of Quicksilver. Probably not the first person you're hearing this from, but information's cool. All the characters in this film I think were alright. Mark Strong, actually a really good antagonist in this, and makes smart decisions, especially for a quirky film. It's just good to have. Christopher was a really weak addition in my opinion though, and I felt either the way his character was or just the way he carried that character just came out so annoying, and probably what makes the sequel not great from what I remember, because Mark Strong just did it better. Also Nick Cage, it's just insane, but I just do not like what he's doing with that entire voice. It's so annoying.
Good move. Ass. Kick. Let's keep it that way.
I think my main issue with the movie is that it's trying to be quirky and weird and all of that, but from time to time it just comes off as so annoying and doesn't age well with me at least. But Nick Cage was cool though, definitely not winning any of the Father of the Year awards for sure. And Chloe Grace Moretz, I had the biggest crush on her after this film, and I think we were all even Peters in that one scene.
Yeah! I think I'm in love with her, dude. She looks like she's about 11 years old, but I can wait. I solemnly vow to save myself for her.
And on that scene, that was just so cool. Just great cinematography. Even what led up to that, the entire whole big announcement on the news, and they shut down the news station for everybody to just run to their computer. That was just so funny. Most of this film isn't like high octane action, and I mean mainly when it's revolved around Aaron Taylor Johnson. It's just more of like a raw electric street fight vibe, and it's cool as that. But when we did get the elevated fight sequences, especially with His Girl and Big Daddy, dumb names by the way, the stunt team, editors, and just everyone, they just nailed it. Also got to note, the transitions in this film are just amazing. Matthew Vaughn, again, the absolute king when it comes to this. He just nailed it, especially that warehouse scene was just so dope. And honestly, a film about a nerd becoming a hero vigilante is what I just loved growing up, especially growing with the MCU. This film was just a really fun alternative. Although it doesn't hold up as much for me personally, I still love it. And it's also funny how he goes to buy this suit from Amazon and he pays $100 for something and he doesn't even get what he ordered from. And he's basically wearing a scuba suit with Timberlands to fight crime. Like, on your first attempt, what were you expecting? It to go differently? Like, come on, bro. Next is Stardust, and simply put, this film just blew me away. And it's a really strange one in the sense that if you look at it and compare it to the other movies on this list, and you just look at it like that, where's the correlation? And this was also Matthew Vaughn's second film too. And it's just incredible how he actually pulled it off and made this incredibly strange film good. It's weird. And to the characters, Henry Cavill is in this, and this is what I'm talking about. It's just absolutely weird. Michelle Pfeiffer, you cannot get her to be ugly. Charlie Danes, Mark Strong with hair. Ben Barnes, he's in a lot of Netflix stuff like Shadow of Bone or The Punisher. And he just meets this girl and makes Charlie Cox's character. And Charlie Cox too is also great in this, and he deserves way more because that girl just doesn't like him and he's doing so much for this girl, and it's just so sad. I legit thought I was watching the wrong film because it's just such a weird film and I was so confused, but it's a real film and it's good, and its plot is so simple and really predictable, and you know where it's gonna end up with him ending up with that girl. And you know, this is a spoiler for a film that came out 17 years ago, but you know he's just going to end up being the king, but you just end up caring and loving every moment about this film. Its CGI is not great, but you don't really care, and it does what it has to do, and it's fun as that. But I'll even commend it in certain points with like how they make some certain scenes, like the scene where the cabin changes. Like, it's all good for a 2007 film. And I forgot to mention, Robert De Niro is also in this film, and his inclusion is just everything great about this film. And I just love that a movie like this exists.
Fucking spectacular!
Then Kingsman, The Secret Service. Honestly, between this and what's actually on the top spot, it's really tight. Like, it's so hard for me to pick between them, but at the moment I'm feeling blue, so Kingsman comes second. And I just dig Matthew Vaughn's visual style, and man, he kills it. And from the start, the use of explosions to tell the whole opening sequence, like introducing the production team and all of that, is just cool. Everyone in this film is just great. Even Eggsy's mom and stepdad, they're even barely in it. I just loved some of the moments that we had with them. But I also forget Samuel L. Jackson is in this film every time. But he's absolutely amazing in it though. I love the scene where we see him and Colin Firth, like they're eating hamburgers. I really wish we got like a Pulp Fiction reference. That would have been really funny and cool, but it is what it is. And compared to the other Kingsman films, Samuel just carried this film. He was an excellently written villain. Like, you understand his motivation and everything, and doesn't make dumb decisions. Like, I love how he noticed something was always up and he always sped up the process. And he was just a funny and great guy too. Valentine ran so that Thanos could fly. And that church scene, need I say more? I would gladly put it as one of the best action scenes I have seen ever. It's just incredible. Everything looked to be done in one take. Seamless transitions, great. The music is fantastic. The choreography, the brutality of everything, even stuff happening in the background. It's just one of a kind. Because Matthew has always tried to replicate this, especially in the subsequent Kingsman films. But as I mentioned, he's just suffering from his own success. Because where do you go to elevate it from here? Aaron Egerton, you just have to root for him. He plays this character well, and what will a Kingsman film be without a death at the start and one at the end? You just can't have a happy film. But overall, this is I don't want to say a 10 out of 10, but it's really high up there. And as I said, for top spots, I was feeling blue, and blue I felt. Honestly, one of my favorite X-Men films, maybe just behind Days of Future Past, but this This film enabled Days of Future Past to be as good as it is. Justice for my man Darwin though, like how they speed ran the origins, but at the same time it's super impactful for the story, most especially Michael Fassbender's. Well, clearly he loses his mother, and you switch to see James McAvoy's story, and you see like the hardship he lived in. Yeah, I know I just stole Michael Fassbender's line, but forgive me. I'm not really a fan of how Kevin Bacon did not keep his German accent throughout the film, and Nicholas Hoult.
Your natural blue form will never be deemed beautiful.
Learn how to talk to girls, man. The way my jaw dropped. And this guy somehow graduated at Harvard at 15. Come on, man. You can't apply at 11. And we all know you wanted to flex, but be smarter about your lie. But apparently he's this genius, and he makes this thing to cure his mutation, and he just tries his prototype on himself. And he looks so hideous after the fact. And this girl is not lying to him that you look gorgeous. Come on now. Let's not lie to your friend. And it's just so funny how, like, after he has done that to himself, you just see him walking and he looks so embarrassed and ashamed of himself. Like, this is what you get. And it's not as if, like, his original mutation was that bad. All he had was, were hands on his feet. Like, nobody will ever see you really, if you get, like, proper shoes. You're a smart guy. You can probably make shoes that look like regular shoes. Come on, man. And I'm just going to end with Fassbender and McAvoy's relationship, because we all know that this was definitely a rom-com. You thought you were tricking us with the whole, hey, World War III, hey, come on, we know. But the final sequence was just so impactful. On one hand, you just want this guy to get his revenge because of what Kevin did to Michaels when he was younger. It's just completely unforgivable. And he killed Darwin, so... And on the other hand, you see James' point about what he's trying to say. Like, why would you kill the person responsible for everything? But... I'm on Michael's side though. The guy, Kevin Bacon, needed to die. But the editing was just so great. And that's just a shout out to the special effects in general with this film. They were just so good. And back on Michael Fassbender, he was simply the best character in this film. Like, he did really well to play Ian McKellen. Like, I really felt that Ian McKellen Magneto, especially towards the end. This is just a really good film. And also at the end, I just love how James wipes this girl's mind, and then the whole FBI or CIA or whatever, they question her and she goes to explain. I'll just play the clip.
All that time wiped clean from your mind. Just gone.
Sometimes I get fragments, like trees. A kiss.
Oh, Jesus. Gentlemen, this is why the CIA is no place for a woman.
But yeah, that just wraps it up with every Matthew Vaughn film that he has directed. But I actually wanted to do his first produced film, which was Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. But if I added that film on the list, it would have been number one. And I just feel like that wouldn't have been fair, considering this was a Matthew Vaughn list and not like a Guy Ritchie one. And putting a film number one isn't the best thing. But I watched the movie for this video, so I'm still going to put it there. I'll just say this was the film that made me realize that the Marv in start of Matthew Vaughn films was actually his production company. I never knew till I watched Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. And Vinnie Jones, we don't get much of him, but him as Big Chris is just perfect casting. Not a fan of the encounter skipped at the end. Maybe it was included in the director's cut, but just took away from the experience. And if this film ended any other way than it did, I do not think I'll be able to live with myself. Overall, it's a perfect film that just entangles its entire plot together. And I just absolutely loved it. Shout out Guy Ritchie. But yeah, that just wraps it up with my Matthew Vaughn films ranked. We'd love to see where Argylle stacks up in this. Hope it's a really good film. And we'd love to know, what's your favorite Matthew Vaughn film? Thank you for watching this video. And go watch Stardust. It's really good. Have a nice day. Peace.
I'm trying to get closer, closer. Baby, you holla at me.
Still fucking spectacular, eh?